some answers may come of this. Indulge. I'm glad we were able to avoid that close call. Cutting it a bit fine, even for my tastes. Say, Pep mentioned something you used to teleport from one place to another. Can you inform us on that? I'm with Lumi. That sounds like a very nifty and broken device. Of course, you are owed at least that much, and the information might be very useful for your adventure going forward. Let's discuss on the roof. I can focus better there. Let's just say, dimensional phasing is a complex matter. In short, an artifact, rather the pyramid you are asking about, it is a universe-wide multi-dimensional teleporter. Many carry them. It's a good way to escape ye. Pep carries one as well, though doesn't often use it for gloomy reasons. Reasons like, I feel like he could have used it to check if you're at Melangani, right? He could have, but I gather he's afraid of what will happen if he doesn't set the coordinates right. These pyramids aren't easy to operate, and one bad misstep can land half of your body inside a wall or deep in a mountain. That is all to say, they have a high mortality rate. This is, I suspect, why you haven't been given your own. One wrong move that leads to an incidental death, and it's game over for everyone. For us, I get the reasoning, seeing as our NOE sees if we die, but that's surely not a concern for Pep. Pep is afraid of his mortality, even if he doesn't seem to be. Death is a lot scarier to those who haven't witnessed it. Even with plentiful evidence around, only they trust themselves to make such a call, typically. So, perhaps this is too personal, but what's your damage? Wow, yeah, that is personal. I also don't really agree with using damage in that way, although in my case I suppose it is frighteningly apt. I can tell you, I think we probably have more in common than you realize, Coco. I did and still do see a lot of me in you. Only one way to find out, right? Right you are, just give me a moment. This is a pretty grim tale. By now, I'm sure you've encountered the partial being in white who goes mostly by MF Lazarus. Like all of my kind, I was created by him. Experiment number 314 was my initial identifier. I had no birth name, for I wasn't birthed from loving parents. I was created by him as just another expendable tool to make his ends meet. That was always the plan for me, a lab rat, designated to serve or be terminated. Perhaps for mercy, I didn't discover that until late in my life. We were also created, but I think we got a bit more decent care from our benefactor. Not so much the one who ordered our creation, though. I grew up and lived alone, with my only knowledge of anyone being in the way MF Lazarus grows most of his creations, by sticky notes left around the house he throws us into. Most of what I know is thanks to those, the literal writing on the walls. While it was from all accounts a bizarre existence, I had no frame of comparison. I just figured this was it, that everyone grew up like this. I never had any friends or even social contact growing up. This illusion of normality could only last so long. The world was tumultuous at this time, and a war between cats and dogs you might know as a war for intolerance was raging on. Even as far removed from society in the outback as my solitary shack was, it was not safe from the fires of conflict. Oh yeah, we did hear about that, so we're following. My house got burnt down to pitch. Everything I knew destroyed, my world and ideas shattered. I saw these bizarre creatures fighting over petty differences, like children given the capacity to kill. It made me both sick and angry. It was during this time I made my first couple of friends, Hellcat and Aisha. Both were part of an elite task force who were trying to put an end to the war, so they could focus on something more dire. What neither of them expected was that I would be so adept at engineering and mechanics. I had been trained by MF Lazarus and inherited a lot of his intelligence. I used to think I wasn't really any smarter than anyone else, but it was made fairly evident that I was uniquely over-intelligent. I hate bragging, so I'm not having much fun telling this part of the story, but it's vital for future events. Intelligence is a curse masquerading as a gift. After we succeeded in both stemming the war and aiming its numbers at a more dire concern, we were ready to face off against the very same dire concern. The Frost Lord Moore, an existential threat to any planet or population makes contact with. Thanks to some quick thinking and my technological ability, we were able to seal and contain the Frost Lord. I was 8 years old at the time, so yes, this is only the beginning. I mean, I think if you make the tech to contain an existential threat in your preteens, you're allowed to brag. Well, don't get too attached to those victories, because what comes next is where my damage lies. No, having my home destroyed and seeing the savage nature of the masses did not do me in. And no, the abusive ex-husband I made the mistake of marrying, nor the death of the only person I ever loved managed to break me. They hurt immensely, but I could and did move on. Only a deranged, manipulative psycho like Yi could architect a trauma so insidious I would consider ending my life. The way I got out of my relationship with that abusive man I mentioned was training with Nasha at a sanctuary from other people he'd gone after. His name was Rixarius, and he was a literal demon of Helldeath who had a score to settle with his brutal masculinity. Unfortunately, that score ended up involving virtually everyone of my kind. That sanctuary had become my new home. I was happy there, at peace. I remember it fondly. I remember too, finding out that I had burned it all down. I am the last kangaroo by my own hands. I killed them all, not realizing what had actually happened until it was too late. I burned everything. The only things that weren't erased in that fire were me and my memories. So what happened? You surely wouldn't have done that on your own terms. That was the day I was gifted Gabrielle. Only Yi could architect a traumatic event so insidious. Yi, for whatever reason, even back then, she saw me as a threat. This wasn't the first or last time she did something, but it was the one that broke me. My girlfriend was dead. My general disappeared. All of my friends and people I considered family were now ash. My entire race dwindling down until only a single one remained. That was my painful and shitty legacy. The sole survivor of Lazarus's line of lab rats. A creature who saved the world only to lose her own. Sounds selfless until you realize it was all one large accident. But being led into thinking I had done such a thing was what really broke me. I didn't know of how broken Yi's abilities were at possession back then. In the case Gabrielle couldn't manage to control me, Yi would take personal joy in doing so herself, taunting me after she'd made me do horrific things, acting as if it was all on me. Good lord, that is... I don't have the words. I had nothing left, and at the time my belief was that I was merely an inventor who had learned everything she knew from someone she could not fathom or find. A father displaced and a child unwanted. A waste. So, I tried to end it. I found a volcano and was about to hurl myself into it. So, what stopped you? Did you jump? Did someone intervene? No, I pussied out. Nothing so grandiose as someone coming to my rescue. So, I went and found a place to call my own near where I knew the Frost Lord was sealed away and resolved to live alone. All the people I had been able to trust were gone, and I had no energy left to build new families and friendships. So in my self-prescribed solitude, I tried to find joys in whatever little things I could. Yeah, that is some major damage. Yeesh, I had it bad, but I feel like you had it worse. Let's not make a contest out of it, Let's fully have that crown. Wow, that was cold! The good news is that, for the most part, my hardships largely stopped there, and for a good while Yi left me alone, as did Gabrielle, possibly both thinking I had given up. But I found my courage again after I met them, my best friends, Rolly and Pep. Thanks to them, I was for the first time in ages willing to trust in someone else other than myself. Now, thanks to the inspiration both have given me, I am happier and more comfortable with my life than I ever dreamed I would be. Had I made that deathly jump, I may never have found the happiness I did with those two neon goobers. I found my dad, made new friends, and found a purpose that I didn't have before. So, there you go. Both my damage and my trust. My trust in you that if you should ever reach such a low point, you remember that it might just get better. That maybe realizing that not throwing yourself into the jaws of oblivion is probably a better idea. We can only hope.